All right, so this is my communication speech about communication and the different types of communication. I have this poster that has the different types of communication labeled out on it, but I'll show it to you here in a second after I start my introduction. So with communication, it started out very simple. You either communicated face-to-face with somebody, or you trusted a pigeon and tied a note to a pigeon and hoped it went to the right person that you wanted to talk to. After that, it became effortless, and you received text messages, emails, and other types of notifications in any way to communicate with other people. It is the most practiced thing other than breathing. And there are 4 different types of communication. It is verbal, nonverbal, written, and visual. So the first one that I want to talk about is verbal. It is the most common one that you use on a day-to-day basis, and it is literally just as common as whenever you breathe. It is essential for interaction, but if you pair it with nonverbal gestures and provide additional context, pairing them creates a better message. After that becomes nonverbal. It is related to facial expressions, gestures, motions, literally anything that you can think of whenever you're talking, just like as me moving my hands and stepping side to side. Whenever you're communicating with somebody, the most common thing when talking to a person is a smile. It expresses words that you can't even think about, and whenever you smile to someone, it just generally creates happiness that wasn't there before. After that becomes written. It is the most traditional, and you use pen and paper and use documents, emails, texts, everything in between that use symbols and written letters. It is more important whenever it becomes for businesses, whenever you're communicating for law or legal issues. It is the most common used in forms of handbooks, documents, contracts, memos, and everything else along those lines. The next one that I would like to talk about is visual. It includes pictures, models, objects, and everything in between. It comes handy when not finding the right words to communicate, just like gestures did whenever I talked about it earlier. Models help provide the final product of something that isn't actually finished yet, just like objects provide anything in between. Another thing is pictures. Pictures, along with gestures, can explain 1,000 words, just like everybody always says. Other types of visual aids are TVs and social media. You see all different types of advertising to promote products and just get a message out. So after that becomes the different styles and purposes of communicating. It goes from formal to non-formal. Formal, it is used for financial issues, jobs, and businesses. It is not always professional, but most commonly it is, and it is backed up by written and visual aids. Next up is informal. It is the most spontaneous and free-flowing, and it has no structure to it. It is also the most unreliable, and it's not the most accurate anyways. Mostly oral, but with no evidence, and many term this type of communication gossip. So this is the visual aid that I like to start with. It has the different types of communication and where it's linked up to. So verbal is written, or verbal is oral, nonverbal is written, and when it comes to oral, it can either be face-to-face or distant. The different styles and purposes is formal and informal, and there's nothing else tied along with those. It's just those 2. When researching all of this, I used 3 different sources. The first source is Novak Marie Claire, who wrote the 4 types of communication from learning.g2.com, from G2 methodology, and it was published on April 2nd, 2019, and it was web accessed on the 15th of October, 2019. The next source was NAAB, who wrote 3 different types of communication from BrightHub, and it was published on the 18th of November in 2018 and web accessed on the 15th of October in 2019. The very last one is Wilcom and Converse, who wrote the 5 types of communication from Goodwin College of Professional Studies, and it was published on the 12th of July in 2018 and web accessed on the 15th of October in 2019. And that concludes my speech.